Good morning, teachers. I'm Irene.
I'm Winnie.
Today, Winnie and I are going to talk about how to cater EALD learners and meet both their needs in social culture aspect and language learning aspect. There are many different types of EALD learners, and in this presentation, we are going to mainly focus on a couple of them. First of all, what are their social culture needs? To address that question, a teacher will need to have the knowledge about cultural differences and how may it affect one's learning experience. Today, we will mainly focus on two problems EALD learners will face that you are most likely to encounter in your teaching experience. There are alienation from dominant culture group and identity crisis. International students are most likely to encounter with alienation problem. Most of international students came to Australia at a young age and have adequate literacy skill in their first language and an uninterrupted schooling experience. They would often find it difficult to integrate into dominant culture group. The international students always stay in the same group as the local students stay in theirs. The lack of interaction and communication between the two groups causes alienation and isolation for the international students as they are the minority group. The lack of understanding of each other and each other's culture create barriers between the two groups. Hence, as the teacher, we need to help them to connect with the local students. Grouping would be an effective strategy to use. This technique will provide an opportunity for them to discourse and interact with the local students, both in class and outside of classroom. When arranging for pair work in the classroom, it is preferred for international students to be paired with the local student, because it ensures these two students to be engaged in the discussion which involves meaningful conversations. It will help international students to build a healthy relationship with their peers and then the mainstream society and culture. Peer support program will also be a meaningful technique for international students to integrate into local society. This program will be designed specifically for international students to gain a certain level of understanding towards the Australian culture. They will be given an opportunity to introduce their own culture to other students from the dominant backgrounds as well. There can be activities such as International Food Day, presentation on unique cultural conventions, telling stories about their experience as an international student. Such activity will increase their knowledge and understanding towards each other. The other issue will be more common. An identity crisis is commonly seen among EALD learners, including Aboriginal students, students from a refugee background, and international students. Their first cultural identity and the one they're adapting when they're living in Australia often incite conflict. Therefore, as teachers, we need to help them to find balance between these two identities.
没线，还有2分钟，很快，慢慢。
Multicultural teaching approaches will be effective in meeting their needs. As Gay defined these approaches as using the cultural knowledge, prior experiences, frames of reference, and performance styles of ethnically diverse students to make the learning encounters more relevant to and effective for them. Therefore, we need to modify the curriculum to a more multicultural environment and embrace their cultures into the classroom. As teachers, we need to let them know that their cultures are valued in the classroom as much as the dominant culture. This strategy can be realized as teachers encourage them to develop their Vygotsky's social culture theory is embedded in these strategies. This theory argues that social interactions is fundamental for individuals to have cognitive development. The purpose of these activities is to help these specific EALD learners to have a healthy and meaningful interaction with the students from the dominant cultural background. If the EALD students always stay in their own culture group, in Australia, they will have limited interaction with the dominant culture. Hence, it will affect their cognitive development in a negative way. As a result, their academic achievement will be affected
as most of the EAL students' background are complex. A clear understanding of EAL students' language learning needs can lead to better learning support. However, misunderstanding EAL students can lead to ineffective learning. This session will discuss useful strategy that can successfully cater for the language learning needs, such as reading difficulty and lack of writing skills. The cultural background of the student has a strong influence on their language learning. Therefore, identify the issue that EAL students are facing is extremely important for teachers. Completing a socio-linguistic profile is a helpful way for teachers to input appropriate teaching strategy for EAL students. This strategy includes using students' information, such as birthplace, date of arrival in Australia, and their first language or spoken language. This method is useful because it allows EAL students to share their backgrounds and their knowledge. Now, I will use an example to show how to use this method to identify students' language learning needs. Many EAL students are reporting from school that they have reading difficulties and less of writing skill. In order to know more about this difficulty they have, we can use a socio-linguistic profile to find out the reason behind this issue. One of them is interactive schooling. For example, Mohammed is a student who just returned to Australia after 18 months visit to Lebanon. Therefore, a huge gap was occurred in his literacy development. Due to the cultural difference, he does not have English book to read at home. Therefore, teacher can use this information to provide appropriate strategy to address the language learning issue which the student is facing. For example, in Mohammed's case, is reading and writing difficulties. Reading difficulties and lack of writing skills are two most commonly seen issues among EAL students. Thus, in order to address this issue, I will use Mohammed as an example to continue discussing the strategy which we can use to satisfy his language learning needs. Firstly, this session will discuss the relevant strategy for improving reading skills. Before you start the reading activity, provide various reading topics related to real life, and it is initial that this topic related to students' background or interests. This is because students would like to learn more when the text relates to their prior knowledge or their interests. Then the first strategy is a model reading with related media, which will be used in teaching Mohammed to improve his reading skills. This is because a guide practice with students is significant for scaffolding students' learning. Using media in language learning support can effectively catch students' attention. Secondly, shadow reading with note-taking is another useful strategy for improving reading skills, because note-taking is an effective strategy for engaging students to think about the text while they read, and this can effectively help them to clearly understand the content. Secondly, this session will discuss the strategy for EAL students who lack of writing skills, such as Mohammed. The first strategy for teaching students to write is teaching different text types. It can allow students to build up the basic knowledge on how to write different types of text and understand the structure clearly. It is essential for teachers to realize that different types of text may differ among different cultures as well, such as letter. Therefore, students' prior knowledge might affect their cognitive development over this topic. Then, guide writing is important because guide practice can allow students to understand the structure more clearly, as it provides step by step. After guide writing, group writing tasks will be provided. This is because group work allows students to share their idea, and then through discussion, ask students to develop a writing plan as the example shown, which can allow teachers to understand how well the student understands the writing task and the structure of a test type. After this step, ask each group to share their plan to the class, which can allow them to review the writing method they use. Then, provide a worksheet with the KWL check and ask students to complete the worksheet, which can allow teacher to understand how well the student understands the content, which then allows the teacher to make appropriate change in future lessons and provide better strategies. Vygotsky pointed out that it's necessary for language learning activity to have authentic purpose, because EAL students will learn best when the language learning activity based on students' interests or relate to their social life. Vygotsky theorized that social interaction is a base principle for learning and also initials for develop individuals' cognitive. Therefore, when scaffolding new knowledge to EAL students, it is important for teachers to use real-life tasks to teach EAL students. Authentic purpose must be given to educational opportunities, making them relevant to real-life application. Thus, new knowledge can be conveyed more effectively within their zone of possible development. Therefore, this strategy that were mentioned previously for supporting language learning needs in reading and writing fit Vygotsky theory, as we provide learning activity related to students' social background and use modeling practice and group work, which allow EAL students to expand their prior knowledge and receive help from both teachers and peers. Also, the interaction with both teachers and peers are proven to be efficient for cognitive learning by the ZPD. Moreover, using technology allows EAL students to transfer socially acquired knowledge into personally meaningful understanding. It will increase cognitive development within the ZPD. Therefore, in order to address students' language learning needs, teachers are required to understand this theoretical principle, which can link to provide suitable strategies. That's it. Thank you for listening.